We will call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Medicine Hat Police Commission April 17th meeting. Just going to start with a land acknowledgement. Or just one moment, I'm having some technical difficulties here. Thank you. The Medicine Hat Police Service and the Medicine Hat Police Commission honor and acknowledge that we are situated on Treaty 7 and Treaty 4 territory, traditional lands of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Stoney Nakoda, and Tsuut'ina nations, as well as the Cree, Sioux, and Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwa peoples. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Métis Nation. A conflict of interest declaration. I kindly ask that any commissioner present here today declare any conflict of interest. Seeing none, okay. The agenda, approval of the agenda. So we do have one amendment. Item 3 was continued on there from last month, which is an error, so we will omit appointment of chair and vice chair. That was done. Are there any other amendments, proposed amendments to the agenda? No. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. Commissioner Sir, seconder. Commissioner Dirk, all in favor? Carried. The March 20th meeting minutes, any errors or omissions on those minutes? No. Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Commissioner Johnson, second. Commissioner Robles, all in favor? Carried. Okay, and we will start with a presentation. Chief Murphy.
I'll turn it over to Inspector West to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Chief. I'd like to introduce Laura Deschamps. So Laura has been the VA supervisor since I think 2020. And just an absolutely passionate about the program, both the VA program and our facility dog program. An advocate, and at times with these types of programs, especially when they count on volunteers, it can be a tricky supervisory and managerial role to be in. She also deals with the province often, so she's really stretched pretty thin, but so thank you so much for coming in. She's going to talk about, just in general terms, our VA program. You get the stats each month, but she'll give some context to the work that's actually being done there, and talk a little bit about our facility dog program, what it's about, and the current changes that just happened within the last couple of weeks. So over to you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me and inviting me here tonight. Inspector West is correct. I am very passionate about victim assistance, so I hope not to go over my time. I can get maybe a little bit long-winded, but it's all good. So to start, most of you probably know the history of victim assistance. It was developed in 1980 and with a task force that included agencies within the community and MHPS. And then in 1988, a federal grant was received. The first program manager was hired for a 3-year pilot, and now it's funded on a 3-year term maximum by the provincial government. And it has grown from having a program manager into having 3 full-time victim assistance staff. The structure of our program is made up of a program manager who it looks out for or is responsible for the strategic direction of the organization or of the program, a victim assistance navigation specialist who works with victims of crime with complex needs, unit assistants who works with the data specifically and helps coordinate volunteers in getting them organized to work with victims of crime, as well as our volunteers. And we have currently 18 volunteers And we've had up to approximately 35 volunteers in the past. And they have and bring unique individual skills to our organization, so we're very pleased and happy to have a volunteer program. Wouldn't be the program that we are without them. Everyone, all staff and volunteers are trained through the Solicitor General e-learning program, which has just currently changed. The hours of training will not have changed. It's a 50-hour online program. We are also trained in trauma-informed practice framework that includes AHS trauma-informed training, Indigenous awareness, cultural awareness, bias training, human trafficking. That's something that has come up in the last couple of years. Ambiguous loss, Clare's Law, gender-based violence, and of course the Brain Story certification. Brain Story certification is recognized across all human services agencies in the community, and it is recognized as being part of the hiring process. So if you have that behind you, that is something that is recognized as being an important piece of their hiring. Roles and responsibilities of volunteers and staff, first and foremost, is a high standard of confidentiality. It's really very important that everyone, all that we work with, including within our own peer group, the confidentiality that we keep within the four walls. Of course, there are those standards that come with confidentiality that should there be any kind of harm that would come to either the individuals we work with or their families or within the team themselves, that is when we can breach confidentiality, as well as if there's a subpoena on a file. We build safe and healthy rapport with victims. We provide intensive case management. Intensive case management involves working with the individual in the community, taking them to their appointments if necessary, based on their need. We do have that option and flexibility to be able to communicate with agencies. If they need to get to court, if they need to go to the root cellar, we are able to pick them up and support them in those areas if that's their need. We are a crisis responder and provide emotional and practical support. All our volunteers provide or sign up for 3 12-hour shifts a month. So they go on a calendar schedule. If an officer needs assistance at a file in the field, then they will phone into dispatch. They have the calendar list of everyone who's on call, and they will call that individual out. All our volunteers are prepared and ready to go as soon as the call comes in, day or night. So calls are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. based on a patrol schedule. Volunteers facilitate information and referrals. So as I had said, they work with complex needs files and or other files that if whatever their need is, they're prepared to be able to support them in that area. Court support and updates. So court support and updates. So court orientation, volunteers and staff provide court orientation to the individuals to ensure that they are prepared, feel safe, and comfortable in the courtroom should they happen to have to go to trial. The process can be quite a lengthy one. It's a 2-year process for a criminal file to be completed in court. So working with that individual right from the time the file comes to us could be up to a 2-year period. So we work with them, get them stabilized, help get them stabilized, and then walk with them shoulder to shoulder through the court process. Provide any assistance for their needs, and ensure that there's a follow-up once the file is done in court. We do a few community agreement or engagements. We, as a volunteer group, will provide assistance to our own MHPS when we do our open house. We'll go to the schools for their mental health capacity days. We have a facility dog program that attends the schools as well. So we have quite an outreach into the community as well. And we also collaborate with internal and external clients, so with MHPS itself, family crimes, major crimes, as well as with VSUs across the country, really. We have spoken with and worked with victim services units in BC, as well as all the way out to Newfoundland and in between, depending where the individual is or if they have moved to those areas. We will connect them to the VSUs in those areas as well. Our core services include providing victim information, which are specific to the Victim Assistance Program that is offered out of the Government of Alberta. And that includes the Victim Impact Statement, Statement of Restitution, as well as any kind of counseling supports that they offer or are in need of. We provide emotional and peer support. We support them through the reporting process, should they come to the office and need someone to be sitting there with them while they are reporting. Witness orientation and court support. So internal training, we have an internal training program that supports witnesses before, during, and after the court. We engage with community resources, and the Victim Assistance Navigation Specialist, or the VANS individual, that's a primary responsibility of that individual. And of course, our facility dog program, we collaborate with the Family Crime Unit and Mulder, who has recently retired. We now have Athena and Glory, and they are very active with working with victims of crime. Our entry points of service where we see our files come in are through police referral, client self-referral. Every once in a while, we will have someone walk in, and we will definitely work with them in doing a report. Crown referral, we do get some files that come through the Crown. And facility dog interviews. We work very closely with CFS as well, so if we need to, we will support that individual in the office through CFS. Collaboration. So some of the agencies that we do collaborate with are, of course, Medicine Hat Police Service, Child and Family Services, the Crown Prosecutor's Office, the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter Society, the Sonari Center, Alberta Senior Services Advocate, Red Cliff and Brooks Victim Assistance Units and Volunteers, and then other external agencies and international agencies, as I had talked about earlier. I do have a few stats that I did want to share with you from the year end December 2023. So our volunteers, our organization is very busy working with individuals. And I know that you've most likely seen these stats at the end of the year, but I just wanted to share a little bit of the background or the insight into them. So in 2023, we opened 1,470 new files. We responded to crisis call-outs, 165. For court orientation and support, which would be direct contact with all of our victims of crime or anyone who is needing assistance and support, our contact points were 4,278. And that's an email, a telephone conversation, a text message. Sometimes we do get text messages after hours, and so we will respond if it's urgent. If it's not urgent, we will wait until the next day. We also sent out 1,820 community referrals and packages to those that, to our new files. We just completed our first quarter of our next year, and our volunteer hours are currently 3,660 volunteer hours. Of that, 575 are staff volunteer hours. So the three of us in the office have put in 575 staff volunteer hours in the first quarter of this year as well. So on to our facility dog program. All our facility dogs are ADI accredited, which means they are accredited through the Assistance Dogs International organization. They are purpose-bred. We use them for forensic interviews, court support, just support in the office, staff support if needed as well. Crown interviews, do accompany Crown interviews and court support. And some of the statistics that we have gleaned to date are, in 2023, they attended 47, or they participated in 47 court support, 109 CFIs, which are forensic interviews, child forensic interviews, and 42 Crown interviews. So our facility dogs are really important to the community that we serve as well. And when we are out engaging in community, in doing community outreach at the schools, they come with us, and they are the biggest hit. It has nothing to do with us. It's all about the dogs. And that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions? Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for your service in what you're doing. I know from the other end how useful it is and how much you assist the members that you're involved with.
Thank you.
You said you did 500 hours of volunteer service. That is the three of you, right? Mm-hmm. So yes. Was there always only three of you working full-time?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And my second question is there any changes with happening regionally with victims assistance? And if there is, how is that affecting you?
So the regional changes don't affect the municipal victim services. They are only affecting the RCMP, the rural division. We are watching. We still work the same with the rural division as we have in the past.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Dirk?
Thank you, Laura, for the great presentation and the work you do. I just wanted a clarification. What is Brain Story certification?
So Brain Story certification is a neurobiology training that talks about the impacts of trauma on the brain.
I can add, it's actually free to sign up for that and complete the certification online.
Yeah.
I'll do a little plug for it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation and for all the work you guys do. It is invaluable. My question is, actually I had a couple. One, just to clarify, all of those statistics are Medicine Hat only. That does not include Cypress County, Dunmore, Red Cliff, because it only serves
Correct.
Medicine Hat.
Correct.
Okay. So victims of crime outside of Medicine Hat, if they live outside, do they still access if the crime happened in Medicine Hat, or if their address is Red Cliff?
If the occurrence was in Medicine Hat, we will assist them. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. One more question, sorry, I was just trying to find it on my paper. You spoke about the VANS workers. I forget what you called them, I just remembered the acronym.
Yeah.
Where they are the community liaisons trying to connect to supports. Do you find that it's easy to navigate all the supports in the community and that people get connected well, or are there barriers? Are you finding you're having to follow up with community and making sure that people aren't falling through the cracks to get the support they need?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, that's a great question. Our program has, what we do with the VANS, in fact, all of the staff are trained in supporting that individual as in taking them to their appointments. We recognize that trauma can really be impactful when if someone just gives someone a telephone number and says to call. The outcome usually is it falls through the cracks. So our program is that we take that individual, we help them set up the appointment, we empower them at that appointment to be able to talk about their needs and what they want, and then do what we call a warm transfer in the community to that agency, and then that agency will take over and they will work with that individual.
Thank you so much. Any further questions? Commissioner Sir?
Not a question, but I would also, I'd like to say thank you for your service. I have firsthand knowledge with being dealt with by your staff, and our family is forever grateful for that. And so keep up the good work. You've got fantastic staff people there.
We sure do.
They are really, really good. So
Yeah. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Chief Murphy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Laura, on behalf of the police service, just want to say thank you to you and all your staff, all the volunteers, and indeed all the members, all the staff at the Medicine Hat Police Service. It's Volunteer Appreciation Week. So of any week that we're going to thank you for this, this is appropriate. It's obviously why we had you here present this week, but thanks so much. And I'm very thankful. A lot of our members volunteer besides things within the police service, volunteer in their own communities and do a lot for this community. So thanks to everybody, and just thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, next item is budget update. Chief Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although currently we have a positive budget variance, we're projecting at year end to have a negative variance. We'll monitor that as we go along. We'll report to you monthly, and we have things in place to hopefully mitigate that as we go along throughout the year.
Any questions for Chief Murphy? No? AAPG report, I will just give a brief update. So the Alberta Association of Police Governance AGM is scheduled for May 3rd and 4th in Lethbridge. I believe 5 of our commissioners will be attending to represent Medicine Hat Police Commission, which is phenomenal. And we have Commissioner Dirk up for nomination to be appointed to Board of Directors. So thank you for taking that on, and I wish you luck, and I look forward to hearing about the AAPG at our next meeting. Any questions or discussion on that item? Okay. Office of the Chief report, Operational Services, Inspector Secondiak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just 2 updates quickly. The first one is for the Downtown Patrol Unit on page 12 of your report. We're happy to announce that with respect to the Drug Treatment Court, last month we had our graduated our 4th participant in the program, and there's still 7 participants remaining. This is a very important program to us because it's intended to break the cycle of criminal behavior that's driven by drug addiction, which we deal with daily. Participants are able to avoid prison if they complete the drug treatment program, only in the case of non-violent offenses. The program typically takes between 12 and 14 months before they can graduate, and there's a lot of rigor put around drug testing and residential treatment in a sober living facility. And it's really about the success. So I pulled the provincial stats today, and not everyone, the recidivism rate, there still is one, but it's estimated that 70% of the people who participate in the program will not reoffend, which is an amazing stat. It's something we don't see with the standard criminal process. So congratulations to that graduate in last month. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight on page 13 under the bylaw enforcement or municipal enforcement. We did something unique this year that we've never done before, but typically we don't have our bylaw enforcement officers conduct traffic stops. But this year, we know that noisy vehicles are always an issue in Medicine Hat and typically in the spring. So we've trained them specifically on how to conduct vehicle stops safely, and number 2, how to enforce noisy vehicle legislation. There's a lot of laws that play into this, but under the Traffic Safety Act, the Vehicle Equipment Regulations, and our own municipal bylaws, we're happy to say that not only the entire patrol section and the traffic section will be looking at this in the next month or two, but our bylaw members will be able to enforce these sections as well. Those are two of the highlights from my report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Inspector Secondiak? Is it just noisy vehicles that they can do traffic stops for, or can they do traffic stops for other reason?
Not in general. They do one insecure loads, I believe, like if somebody's hauling something to the landfill, and that's a bylaw offense, so we do allow them for that, but just speeding offenses or other offenses, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Investigation and Support Services, Inspector West.
Thank you. I thought I'd use my time to focus on training a little bit. So over on page 16, I'll just draw your attention to. So this is the time of year where training is in absolute full swing. So there's a lot of pressure on schedules and so forth, especially with our cadet program, but sort of a busy month for training. So the first highlight there is we did host a 2-day training session for Freedom of Information Protection Act. And so this was updating our, our current practices and making sure that we are, following the legislation and understand the legislation. So we had somebody come in and provide that instruction from a consulting company. But the interesting thing is when we do have training like this, we open up the training to other agencies. So we had the Blood Tribe Police Service join us, as well as some employees from School District 76, and we put the invite out to all the agencies in southwestern Alberta. So just an example of how we use our facilities and how we put the invite out when it's appropriate. Our school resource officers, they're always trying to stay current with what's going on in the schools and so forth. So they attended a 1-day U.S. Secret Service threat assessment. Sounds more you don't think the Secret Service does that stuff, but they do. But a threat assessment event in Lethbridge that focused on behavior-based approaches to preventing violence, which translates to the schools. So good training for them. We also had 2 officers attend a week-long emergency vehicle operation instructors course. So one of the unique things about Medisnat being a smaller service is we do have our own in-house instructors. So in addition to regular police officers' patrol duties or duties in major crimes, they'll take on instructor roles. In the bigger centers, these would be full-time positions. And so we're constantly training our own EVOC instructors, our investigative instructors, our officer safety instructors. So we've got 2 more trained up for our emergency vehicle operation, but that translates to a number of other units. And also we have 2 members attending a 3-day Canine Police Quarry School. So this is really important. So we have one of our members is up in Edmonton receiving full canine training, and we want to make sure that when we move forward with the program that the quarries, so those are officers who aspire to be canine officers, they'll go out and train, and they're the ones putting on the dog suits, the bite arms, and working with the dog and the handler. And it's important that they're kept safe and they do the right thing. And so it's great that we're getting a couple people trained on how to do that safely and properly to get the most out of that training. And they're being trained at the same, they're being trained at EPS, as is our canine handlers. So just some insights to training there, and flipping the page over to just a quick update on cadet training. So towards the end of March, we're just getting to the halfway point. And this month they're moving into really sort of the nitty gritty. They had some of their officer safety training this past week, and they're in full swing, but definitely at the halfway mark. And of course, they're looking forward to their June completion of the course. And that's all I have from the Support Investigative Division, unless anybody had any questions.
Any questions for Inspector West? Commissioner, sir?
Just one question on the canine. The way I understand it is one dog, one handler. Like that, you don't get a canine dog and 4 different officers take care of the dog or can use them at work.
That's right. It's one
on
handler,
one
dog, one team. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have 3 canine and 3 canine handlers.
Currently, we have 1 canine handler, 1 full-time team, and 1 in training.
Okay, so 2 in total?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is that training full-time in Edmonton, or is it partial Edmonton, they come home, they go back?
Yeah, it's full-time during the week, yeah, it's 40 hours a week of training, and, you know, they'll come home on the weekend just for their time off, and then they're back at it. So a very intensive program, and if all goes well, it's, you know, I think it's about 5 months this time? 6 months. That's if all goes well with the dog and the handler. Sometimes things happen along the way where that can be delayed, but, so yeah, very intensive training.
And so far, all is going well?
Yes.
Good. I had one other question here. Recruitment. You said cadets are halfway through, but we are currently still in recruitment, right? I think I've seen ads, yeah?
Yep.
So people can still apply. That's open.
That's over in Inspector Secondiac's division, so I'll pass it over to him.
Pardon me, I know it's still open. The close date is in the near future, June 1, there we go. So not far away, and then there'll be no more applications, and we'll start the testing processes, the physical testing and polygraph and things of that nature.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Chief's report, Chief Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 7 of your package, there is a report of many of the activities I was involved in last month, in addition to other members of the Office of the Chief. If you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer. Also, we've presented to you in the past on the Proactive Engagement and Community Enhancement Team, also known as the Peace Team. We'll be presenting that to City Council on Monday night, April 22nd. So if you'd like to see it twice, you're welcome to come out to City Council. We'll do that at the public presentation, and that team's been up and running since last week and it's going very well so far, and we'll give Council that information.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Murphy? Well, you know I'm going to have one, right? I was looking on your report, and you talk about proposed enhanced benefit plan on the impact on employees. So what enhancements are we looking at there?
I can't speak about that publicly. It's still being voted on by unions. So it's probably not appropriate for me to speak about that in a public meeting, but unions are currently voting on an enhanced benefit plan. I realize that's exactly what your question is, what is that? But I can't speak to it because of this, it's in the middle of being voted on.
That's fair, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. We'll move to new business, strategic planning session update. We have our session booked for this Saturday, April 20th. Commissioners will meet and we will move forward with that. So more to come, and we'll present that to the public once we have a plan in place. Anyone want to comment further on that? No? Okay. 9B, police ride-along. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week, I had the opportunity to go on a police ride-along, and for me, it was a little bit different. One of the things was I tended to perhaps compare the way things are as to the way they were back in the day. And what I found is that the people that we have on the streets now are better educated than we were. They're smarter than we were. They handle people better than we did. The only thing advantage that we had is that we would go on the street, and I can remember going on the street with a crew that had over 100 years policing experience. But that's okay. They'll catch up on that. My main point is I would very much encourage my fellow members to go on a ride-along or go on several ride-alongs. If we are going to advocate for the service or advocate for the people, we must at least understand what they're facing and what they see. On the day that I went, we went call to call to call. And probably one of the biggest surprises is that the majority of the calls we went on had a mental health aspect to it. And I think you'll find that enlightening. Also, police personnel tend to be somewhat of a suspicious subbreed in life. And what it does is it gives us credibility if we at least know who they are. And I would encourage you to do it, if not even just for that reason. Questions, queries, comments, concerns?
I appreciate it. I do need to do a ride-along. I will coordinate that with Inspector Secondiak.
In closing, there's one other thing. When I was on the other side of this, there were two types of police commissioners that I was suspicious of. Number one was the ones that were there every week, and number two is the ones who were never there. And if you want to have some credibility with the membership, I suggest this is one way to do it.
Noted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any comments from the service?
I appreciate Commissioner Johnson for doing the ride-along and for getting acquainted with the way things are now. Your comment about the events that you attended with the police officer were largely related to mental health, and that's true in probably most municipalities right now. I'll suggest that probably upwards of 70% of the events our members attend. If you look, the event you're going to might not come in as related to mental health and addiction, but when you boil it down as the root cause, it's mental health and addiction. And that's something that I think all of society is probably grappling with right now to find solutions to that. And I think we're doing a good job. We've just got a lot further way to go. But that is something our members deal with all day long, for sure.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We'll move along to community consultation. So we're now going to move to the public consultation portion of the meeting. If there is any member of the public that is present, aside from official media, who would like to pose a question or provide a comment to commission, we'll invite you down. Okay, you can come down to the podium. And I'll just read some guidelines as you make your way down. So before we open the session, we kindly ask that you respect the following guidelines. Please note that complaints about officer conduct or MHPS policy or any details concerning ongoing investigation or personnel matters are not topics for this forum as per the provisions set out in the Alberta Police Act. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to present your comments and questions, which will be directed to the chair, myself, and then I in turn may direct the question to the service or whomever may be appropriate. If that is acceptable to you, you can introduce yourself and address the commission. Thank you. I will pass that to Chief Murphy.
Hi, Mr. Schulcher. Thanks for your comment, your question. I can tell you that professional standards files, not speaking directly about yours, but in general, and when I worked for the Edmonton Police Service, they do take a long time. It's unfortunate. Much of that time comes down to the number of complaints that we have to work our way through. So if we were just dealing in isolation with one matter, of course it would be faster, but we have a number of things to go through. Although I can't speak specific to your investigation, what I can tell you is that we're nearing the conclusion of that. when it is done, you'll receive a letter from me laying out the investigation and the results, and then what your options are from there. So you'll have that in relatively short order. I can't speak to specifics. The letter will do that for me, unfortunately, so I can't fully answer your question, but the volume of complaints and the other work we have, everything comes down to resourcing. So we have right now 2 investigators and a staff sergeant in professional standards. If I could assign more folks to professional standards, it would probably get through that faster. Unfortunately, I need to keep the some other frontline officers on the street to deal with emergent complaints that we have to get to right away. So I hear you when you talk about timelines, because I think if I was in a member of the public shoes and I'm waiting, I think that feels like a long time. And it's probably cold comfort to hear that we got a lot of things on the go, but that is largely the answer. My letter that you will get from me will give you some more answers, and then we go from there. I hope that helps somewhat.
Thank you, Chief. No, I was just going to say, did you have anything further comments?
I just want to say thank you, Chief Murphy.
Certainly. So I can't speak to what the former chair may have discussed with you, but I am aware there has been some changes to that, and I can let Mr. Keene speak to the brochure update.
Certainly. Thanks, Mr. Silcher, for coming in. We've had a couple of conversations on the phone. The brochure has been updated. We did have a conversation back at that time. And unfortunately, the Police Act is the authority that lets someone make a complaint. And without getting into the details, it didn't fall within the guidelines of the Act. You're correct in the brochure was wrong. It has been corrected since. I take responsibility for dropping the ball back when we had spoke about it, but we've updated the brochure, so at the service and in the website, it should be updated. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Greg. All right. Thank you. Okay, no, I'm happy with everything, and thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. Thank you, Mr. Silcher. Okay, I did have one other question come to me from community member. This question is from Melinda Skanes, and she is wondering, question for the service, do any of the officers have specific training on how to deal with youth or adults who have autism or other neurodivergent conditions? And if you can explain a little bit on that.
Thank you for the question that you posed on behalf of citizen, Madam Chair. So question is very timely. So back in January, we actually had some training that we did online. It was provided through Autism Canada, free of charge. Our training unit set that up, but not just for the Medicine Hat Police Service, but it was offered out to all agencies in the province to jump online with us and to learn about neurodiverse people that are going through emergencies and how they process things that are different and how we can help them and how we actually need to treat them differently in order to help them get through that emergency. The training was back in January. There were agencies, the Calgary Police Service, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Tsuut'ina Nation Police, Lacombe Police, RCMP, Alberta Health Services, several fire departments, even the Halo Air Ambulance were represented. There were more than 150 people did this training. It was very brief, it was 90 minutes, but we could only hit a certain audience internally that was either working or had the time to do it at that time. What our training coordinator did is that she recorded the session. I actually did it myself. I watched the recording when I had time to go through it. It was very valuable. One of the things that I learned is that people that are neurodiverse or have autism or other disorders, they do process things differently, and autism's a spectrum. It's not a scale, so the line that really resonated with me was that if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, that they're all different and they process things differently. In terms of search and rescue, in terms of HALO, that people that are neurodiverse, they might not know they're lost. If you're searching for them, they might not understand that they're lost in the first place, and they don't feel the fear that someone else might feel that they're lost, and they would stop. They're just out and they're walking, and don't have that same fear. So it was valuable to me. I know it'll be valuable to our folks. We've left the link available to our membership. So far, we've had about 20% of the members of the Medicine Police Service have taken the training. We didn't make the training mandatory. As I mentioned to Mr. Silcher, resourcing, if I want it, it's great training, don't get me wrong. But if I make it mandatory, it means there's something someone else can't do right now. So that's why we didn't make it mandatory, but we made it available. So we will continue to see people take it because it's important training. But again, we were trying to balance all our resources. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any about this specifically.
Any questions? Vice Chair Carolyn?
A comment, if I could, Chief. So I attended that, and I'm proud to say that I did. I think the only thing that I would add to Chief Murphy's presentation is that this training specifically is about emergency services. So there's lots of training out there on the autism and neurodiverse spectrums, but this talks very specifically about emergency services, fire, search and rescue, law enforcement, and health. And it provides contingencies and experiences that are directly related to that for people that are responding in that environment. It began, I happen to know, as a search and rescue initiative, and I've taken it in the past as well, and now it's moved to additional services as well, and I agree, I think it's completely invaluable. Thank you for making it available.
Thank you. No further questions or discussion? Okay. So our next meeting is Wednesday, May 15th at 6 o'clock here in City Council Chambers. And after that, June 19th at 6 o'clock here in Council Chambers. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned at 6:47. Thank you.